Welcome to your discipline-specific video to help contextualize the lecture material from week 2, Assumptions and Models, into your particular discipline of software engineering. I can fully understand why you as a software engineer might be sitting there going, yeah, but how does any of this projectile motion crap stick to me? Fair. I get that. We did talk a little bit in that lecture about how doubles or integers, as an example, are a thing where you will have to take something that's physical in the real world, do a modeling step yourself as you implement it into code, and it can get you in a lot of trouble if you don't think this through particularly well, if you don't make the correct modeling or assumptions. Another example of that is here. The difference between a zero, a null, or an undefined are three things that to some people are all the same, but to you are very, very different things. So this is an example of that again, a modeling or an assumption that was made between a real world and how that's implemented in code. So there is another couple of examples here of things that are implemented into code that have had failures, and I guess the only real good examples I have of this are generally things that have failed. So the real famous one of using integers again is Gangnam Style. So I don't know if you know this song. It was very popular a couple of years ago in 2012. In fact, it was so popular that on YouTube it got over 2 billion views. And YouTube, to count its number of views, uses a 32-bit integer, which only goes up to just over 2.17 billion as a number. And once the views tried to roll over that, it was like, this doesn't work anymore. And it was a huge problem from within YouTube because they never assumed that they were going to get over 2 billion views when they wrote the code to count view numbers. And it was a massive deal. So that was just a step where a thing had to be implemented in a code, and you're going to have to do this in code, assign the size of the variable, and it was a modeling step, and it was a mistake in the end. It probably wasn't a mistake when it was first written. It was probably very much the right thing to do when it was first written, but it just wasn't updated with the growth. So, I mean, that's the funny example of where this happened. The expensive example of where this happened was satellite launch, where is it? It's in here. Unfortunately, the engines. So they launched a satellite. They used old software on the new satellite with more powerful engines, and it ended up trying to write a 64-bit number into a 16-bit space, and they lost a $500 million satellite as a result. Yeah, bad modeling step, right? Small mistake, big issue, really common thing that happens in code, right? What's important here isn't just that there was an assumption made that happened to be false. It's also that this happened because physical geometry that you wouldn't have thought would ever be the software engineer's job to understand how the rocket engines work, but it's that there was obviously a lack of communication here. Nobody doing the rocket stuff bothered going and saying, hey, if we increase these accelerations, is it going to mess with your code anywhere? And no one in the coding team had enough of an understanding to go, hey, they've increased their accelerations in the rockets. So it's that communication that's really, really important and really difficult to get, because you guys are going to sit in a world where you speak a language that most other engineers are going to struggle to comprehend. And I, as a mechanical engineer, struggle to comprehend some of the things that my expert software engineers come and bring to me. So we have to sit, and it takes us a long time to work through a lot of things, communicating so that we can get something that works for both parties. And that's something that you need to be aware of as well. You need to understand the models and the assumptions that your other engineers in your teams, obviously not your 1500 team, but when you get out and you get a job, that your teams are working in as well. So even if you don't think it's necessarily exactly related to your project, it is, this whole concept of assumptions and models for engineers is going to be related to your future success as an engineer. Cool. That's all I had for you. If this doesn't make any sense still, I will be in your workshops. Flag me down. We'll have a chat about it. We'll figure it out. Cool. Yep, that's more Gangnam Style.